And again, here the yoga and the mindfulness come in. It's like when you build your self-awareness and you are acutely aware of what you bring to the table and what you want and need, that's when picking your dates become much more intelligent. I think a lot of us, we sit on these online dating apps and we just randomly like click and like, oh, you look cute, you look cute, you look cute. And then you go on bad date after bad date because you just sacrificed all your needs for these nice to haves, i.e., oh, I think you look cute.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked that, because I went through 2 stages of online dating. In the beginning, where I was meeting a bunch of people, but it wasn't really the type of people that I really wanted to meet because I wasn't in the right headspace at the time.
Exactly,
right?
And I see. So I have like 2 things, and I talk about this in my book. Is number 1, remember you're casting a line. You're not casting a fishing net. So it's not, you don't want to have everybody clicking on you because it just leads to a bunch of mediocre dates with people who you are not truly interested in. And the second one, and this is like my number 1 thing with my clients, is do not sacrifice your needs for nice to haves. So I tell my people, like, you need to write a list. It's like, what do you want in a partner? And out of that list, there are 2, 3, maybe 4 things that are absolute needs. And that's your boundary. Without the needs, they have to have these needs. Everything else is nice to haves. And the nice to haves can be sacrificed. They don't have to have all the nice to haves, but they have to have these few needs. So like an example, I was helping a woman not long ago, and she had come out of a relationship with this very good looking, cute, younger guy, and the relationship had ended because he wasn't ready for kids and she really wanted kids. So I helped her with a dating profile, and as she was going live with the profile, I told her, it's like, no clicking on any cute yoga boys. And she looked at me, but that's my type. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's not your type, because these guys are not, they don't correspond to your need. You are at an age now where you want to settle down and have a family. That's not it. So you need to step away from this nice to have of a cute looking yoga boy. And you need to know, no, my boundary is I want a family. I want a serious relationship and a family. And I think a lot of people, they don't think about it. They sacrifice these absolute essentials.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they kind of wing it. They kind of go, and some people kind of go with the flow.
They don't think about it. They're not consciously dating.
Yeah. And I learned this, I saw one of my homeboys from back home. He started doing online dating like, this is like 2005 when Plenty of Fish first came out. And first off, I didn't know what site he was using, but I saw women come off, catch flights. He was picking women up at the airport, and I'm like, hey, how'd you do that, bro? She came from California. Oh shit! So, when I saw him do all that for months and months, and I said, hey, maybe I should, try this out. And he showed me how some of the stuff he was doing, and I just took what he was doing and use it to I put my own little spin on it. But at the time, just like I said earlier, I wasn't in the right headspace at the time. I wasn't attracting the type of women that he had. It wasn't like bad dates, but there's a lot of mismatches at the time. Yeah. Now, as I got older and evolved, that's when I learned that, there's different, I guess, levels, different stages of doing this. And then I started meeting other people, and then people were telling me that they were having horrible dates. And then I told them, you know, I never really had a horrible date. You know, some mismatches or whatever, but nothing ever happened. And you know, when I started hearing horror stories from other people, that's when I was like, okay, maybe I need to talk about this a little bit more.
Yes.
You know? So yeah, we have similar experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. I think that when you see somebody, it always comes down to when people keep going on horrible date after horrible date. I'm kind of like, I always say two things. Number one, you're the common denominator here. So it really is about you, not them. Secondly, your picker is wrong. You are picking the wrong people. And I have a little, like, some of the dating apps you can train the app, you can train the algorithm. I think people often think the dating app is this magical, like the magic hat in Harry Potter, where you just kind of like, they magically appear, and they don't understand that this is a computer program and it's an algorithm. And as soon as there's an algorithm involved, that can be trained. So you have to be really aware of how you behave on the dating app. Who do you click on? Who do you look at? How much time do you spend at looking at somebody's profile? And again, once you understand these are my needs, and I always tell my clients, if you want to train the app, you have your choose two things that are absolutely you cannot negotiate, that they're non-negotiables, and you train the app out from those two needs. So you only click on people who have those two things. And it doesn't mean you have to go on a date with them, but it's just to let the algorithm know these are the people you're looking for. And then different men or women, depending on what you're doing, will come up in your feed. You will be presented with way more of the people that you're looking for.
So what apps or websites you usually recommend to I guess a single person?
Well, I think it's number one, it does depend on where you live, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
If you live like in outer Indiana, I can give you some app and be like, yeah, but there's 2 people and a dead dog on that app in Indiana. Let's say
you live in the city limits.
Yeah, I think if you're an adult, like age group, I would say 35 and above, I would definitely recommend Hinge. Or Bumble. I think those are a great apps. They have especially Hinge is very prompt based, which I love. So you fill out a lot of information, like you answer questions that the app actually asks you, and that's how you build up your profile. And I think it's just a fun way of getting information out there about you that you normally wouldn't write if you were just writing a profile. And secondly, it's just it's a great conversation starter. So for example, Hinge has they have a prompt where it's like 2 truths and a lie. So you have to tell like 3 things that you've done in life that are true and 1 that's a lie. And number one, great conversation starter, because then the person goes in and guesses what's true and what not. And secondly, you obviously write something fun. So you're basically starting out with telling the person the craziest story of your life, kind of thing. So I went on quite a few dates. Was like the first thing once we met over dinner, just sit down, tell me about your story. It's like, it's way more fun. Yeah. So I just think that's a great app, and especially, I mean, Hinge, statistically, a lot of people are looking for like long-term relationships. So it's a great app when you're serious about meeting somebody. Same with Bumble. Yeah, I think those two are my favorites. But there's also something to be said about the OG, like Match.com, and those which are actually a little bit more thorough. It's less algorithm based, and they're great too.
Yeah, you know, there's so many websites and
there's so many apps for everything. And it also like, yeah, what are you into? What do you actually want to meet? And if you're just in a hookup stage, like I'm not looking, and that's because that is fair too. It is fair to be in a place where I'm not looking for my next great love. I am looking to have some fun, meet people, and Tinder is your app. That is such an easy to go thing. But I also feel a lot of people who are listening to a podcast about dating, they're looking for a partner.
Yeah. And just like you said, you know, a lot of these apps, you know, every place you go is, if you use it, you might get different results, and it just depends on what you're looking for, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. A lot of times, like, because when I think like I'm gonna say probably like 10 years ago, people started starting channels and started podcasts, and they started talking about some of their online experiences, and a lot of that stuff, it doesn't work for most people, unfortunately. And I told somebody, I said, look, of course you want a nice profile. Of course you want the best pictures you can take. And of course you want to be smiling in the pictures or whatever. But if you don't know what to say, you don't know how to respond, it's just probably not gonna work out.
Oh God, yeah.
And that's been the biggest thing for me, because I've learned that my homeboy from back home, I learned that what made the big difference for him is how he responded, how he communicated. Because, you know, back then we didn't have like cameras like we have now. You know, it wasn't, you know, it was, back then you didn't have a lot of phones that had cameras, and a lot of people didn't really have cameras like that. So when I hear people say that, hey, you got to focus on your picture, get a photographer to take your pictures and all that stuff, I'm like, I don't know. You know, it's okay. Of course, it's great to have a good presentation, but I think communication is the key. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. I do think like pictures are important. There is a first impression, and actually, like, especially like men are very visual creatures too. So to get people in, but they have to be like, don't filter your picture. Don't use a picture that's 10 years old. Like, keep it real, keep it honest. But yeah, I think communication is super important. There's certainly like, let's see a different, like somebody replies on my dating app saying, wow, I like to hit that. I am never going to reply to that.
Yeah.
Really. But if you say something about my dating profile, oh my God, you went to that country too, so did I. Then we have a conversation starter. Then I'm interested. It's like, yeah, tell me about that. So I think as a man, when you reply on somebody's dating profile, read their profile. Take something about something that has been written in the woman's profile and say a question, say something about it, just to show I have actually spent the time to read your profile.